Wolf, and I'm the Executive Director of the Farmington Land Trust. Volunteers for the Farmington Land Trust are crucial. In fact, I'll go as far as saying that volunteers are the Farmington Land Trust. And then we go beyond for those who are exemplary to the whole organization. And Charlie Leach is one of those people who has volunteered his time and talents throughout the town, and especially for the Land Trust.
Okay, so what did Charlie do? He was, before the Land Trust, I'm sure that he was on the Historic Society and the Historic District Commission he was very involved in. And then maybe the Land Trust came next. He was already on the board of directors also of the New Britain Museum of American Art, as well as a docent.
After living in a lot of places, we came to Farmington and discovered that this was a setting that was just right for us, and that it was a place that we both could love.
Sometimes people might wonder why a personality settles in a place and what keeps them there. And for Charlie, I can only guess. I have a feeling his affinity for Farmington and this area is because of the history here, and the history that's tangible, from the dirt out in the meadows, from the rocks up on Rattlesnake Mountain, to the houses that date back some to the 1600s here. I mean, you walk around here and you can feel it. And if you come from that kind of a family, which Charlie does, his family is old New England and old out west too. I think it's just in your bones and in your blood, and you want to know about it, and you want to learn about it, and have a real connection. And so maybe that's why Charlie's here, and thank goodness.
I was sort of brought up paying attention to history, and my mother walked me through graveyards in Vermont where we lived to find our ancestors' graves. And in all of the places where we lived, I sort of picked up on the history of the place. And that was a wonderful game to play. Even I was kind of a lonely young kid because I got jerked from place to place, and so I would just latch onto the place and learn about it and wander around in it. And we'd been here maybe a couple of years, and I discovered that my ancestors had been founders of the town. So this piece of amazing coincidence gave me a connection to the town that I felt that I just had to follow up on.
Charlie adopted this community, and the community adopted him. Charlie was a citizen of the world, born in China, lived in Paris as a child, lived in London as a child, lived back in the United States in a number of places. He had a keen interest in people, and when he came to Farmington, all the right pieces were here. Farmington was beginning to blossom with a professional group of people, doctors, educators, lawyers. The health center was built. Charlie came here and saw it right for all of his interests.
Charlie was an excellent cardiologist, but really at heart, he's a historian. Farmington has benefited from Charlie's work in history for decades. He has deep and wide knowledge of Farmington history. He's worked on Memento Mori and our understanding of that wonderful historical ancient burying ground on Main Street. He's done deep research in a number of areas, epidemics and smallpox in Farmington, which has really informed a whole generation of scholars. He was on the Farmington Historic District during some of the more contentious and difficult cases in Farmington. He did not back away from those fights and was successful.
When you're interested in or have some experience in a lot of different areas, your life becomes sort of like a big Venn diagram where the circles overlap, and you have an overlapping point where things become more vivid and even more meaningful. And you can spot the overlaps between history and open space as a natural. The open space as a context for history.
Every spring, Charlie would come over. I lived next door to them at the time. He would get me, and we'd have to do a survey of the flood every spring. And so we would go out to the airport in Plainville. We'd get up in a tuna can, and we'd fly around. And Charlie, every year, would talk about, notice the difference over there, notice the difference over there. Charlie knows this community like the back of his hand and from many vantage points. Another part of his very detailed work, have you ever gone up to Hospital Rock with Charlie? Have you ever been on a hike with Charlie? You learn about every single blade of grass, when they probably came into this country, and it could have been associated with one of his relatives, I might add. And then you go up to Hospital Rock and you get the very detailed description of the rocks, the people who lived up there, and again, as Lisa says, he likes that other side of life. So you get some of that too.
Our knowledge of inoculation comes in part from the knowledge of an African slave of Cotton Mather. His name was Onesimus, and who told Cotton Mather that in Africa they had inoculated by blowing the crusts of the smallpox crusts up the nose, and that would get people inoculated. And it was known in China you could do the same thing. It was brought.
And so knowing Charlie is to know the world in its deepest sense. When you ask Charlie if he's ever read a particular book, not only has he read it because he's a voracious reader, but there's a chance he may have known the author also, or been related to the author, because he has done an incredible job on his ancestry. So beware. Don't ever ask him who he's related to. That's what I would say to you, not right now.
Charlie Leach is a Renaissance man. His work with the Land Trust combined all his interests, his energies, his skills and talents.
Well, I got involved with the Land Trust because I got to know Dick Noyes a little bit. He was our executive director and a ferocious defender of the environment. I really liked him.
And when he got involved with the Land Trust, he just dove right into it. He researched, he did all kinds of work to figure out what was the best role for him. How could he help the Land Trust move its mission and vision forward with his intelligence and his energy and his penchant for serving the community well.
And there were several areas of impact that the Land Trust had. The one that really gave us our chance to do battle and bloody our sword a little bit was when a guy named, believe it or not, Mr. Stump, cut down a bunch of trees on the Carey pasture. He wanted a better view for his new house up at the top, so he just chopped down our trees. We tried to take him to court. The prosecutor wouldn't have none of it. It wasn't considered to be a worthy enough or expensive enough cause. And to make a long story short, we got some new laws passed. 89-06 is the one that really had the teeth in it. And so developers could no longer think of these bad things they did as just a cost of doing business. They knew that they would pay through the nose if they cut trees on land. The other bit of advocacy that we did was to advocate for having the Inland Wetlands Commission of Farmington separated from the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. And that was very important. We were one of 6 remaining in the state that had them as a joint body. And the zoning would be addressed during the early part of their evening meetings. It would get to be around midnight, and they would kind of gloss over the environmental aspects of the Wetlands Commission work. So they really had to be separated. But we had a good time with that one, and we won. Where we are right now, the crossing place of the Farmington Canal crossing the Farmington River has enormous historical meaning. It is also, if you look around in these woods, very, very beautiful. We have a beautiful, quiet river going by and open woodlands and green everywhere. And this is, it's no wonder that the artists came out from Hartford in the 1920s to paint in Farmington with their students. They painted the river. They painted places like this. There's an idea that I like about history and open space and the Land Trust. By preserving land, the Land Trust creates a context for the understanding of Farmington history. It's a little bit like people studying geography to really get a feeling for what was going on at any particular time. So by preserving land, we also preserve history and honor it.